What's up, Twitch and YouTube? It's MurphyD55 coming to you with another episode of Around the Gjallarhorn, and today our esteemed guest is none other than Bobby V, representing the Eagles Nation, as you can see from the flag in the background there. Bright and early. This is the record for the earliest ever start time for the podcast. So most people are probably still in bed, especially like everybody who was up late watching all the NCAA content yesterday. But Bobby, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come in and do the interview, man. Appreciate you.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. Good morning to everybody. And I mean, yeah, man, it's the excitement is in the air. I mean, college football is a day away now, and I mean, I can't describe it almost. It's almost like that, when you were a teenager, and it's like if it was final couple of days of school feeling, right? Like, I mean, it's summer's on the way, but those last couple of days, they're just going a little bit slower than the rest of them, and I can't tell you how long this wait has felt waiting for college football 25, especially these last couple of weeks, these last couple of days in particular, and we're almost there. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
For sure. I remember when it was like 45 days out, and I was like, okay, we still got plenty of time to wait for this. Madden was still putting out promos at this point. It was like the game wasn't completely cooked, but after a couple weeks of having no content schedule, 4 Red Zone Royale players, and literally nothing else to do on the game, I think people are like chomping at the bit right now for like another football game to play. And I guess this is the first one since 2014 was the last time we had college football.
10 years.
I don't think I've played a college football game since I was in college. So probably like 2007 or 2008. So it's been a while since I've hopped on, but I'm definitely excited for it. And we'll definitely get into kind of what your strategy is for attacking a game that we haven't seen in a decade. So, hopefully after 10 years, they can make this one of the best sports games of all time. I have that feeling for sure. I think this is probably the most hyped sports game of my lifetime that I can think about, with social media and like Twitter going crazy, and the way they've kind of gradually rolled out content every day. Like yesterday, I saw a whole bunch of people. Obviously, there's a handful of streamers that were able to get access to the game early, but even people who didn't have access, everybody was streaming in the directory, just watching and being a fan, essentially. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But the first thing I wanted to ask you about, you got that big Philadelphia Eagles flag behind you there. So are you from Philly, currently in Philly? What's your origin story? Where are you from?
Yeah, so quite literally born and raised in Philadelphia. And when people tell you, sometimes people will tell you they're from Philadelphia because they might actually be from like 2 hours away, but not really from Philly, but it's just easier to say Philly. I am literally a hop, a skip, and a jump from the stadiums outside of my window, like maybe a 10-minute walk to the Wells Fargo Center, to Citizens Bank Park, to Lincoln Financial Field. I am in the heart of South Philadelphia, as they would call it. And born and raised here. I know we'll talk more about it a little bit later, but left for a little bit to do the military shtick. And then, came back, and I'm back now. And, you kind of get tired of where you're from. And I probably won't be in Philly forever, but, it's still home. And there's just something about Philly, man, honestly. I don't think I'm your typical Philly guy, but, like, there's just something about Philly that just kind of, I don't know, man. There's something about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of your typical Philly guy and what that means exactly. I don't know if have you ever seen, what are your thoughts on, have you ever seen that Bill Burr thing where he was in Philly? Have you ever listened to that? I absolutely
it's like a top 10 probably stand up of all time.
Dude, insane. Like and it kind of just goes with the whole idea that Philly has, some of the most dedicated diehard fans for every single sport, from hockey to baseball to football. But I guess it goes for performers coming into town too. Like if you're doing stuff and they don't like it, they're gonna let you know about it, man. It's a very hostile environment to be a visitor in. That Bill Burr thing, man, I've watched that through many times, and he kind of started to win him over towards the end of it. But like through sheer negativity, he matched the energy.
Negativity and insults, yeah.
Yeah. But the Philly's obviously one of the best teams in baseball this year. Like you got a lot to look forward to with that season. I wanted to ask you a little Philly Toronto connection here. So you guys, I'm assuming you're a big Sixers fan as well. You guys have our old head coach Nick Nurse, who won us a championship in his rookie year as a coach. Things ended kind of on a not too much of a sour note. It's hard to be sour when you finally win a championship with somebody. We'll always have love for him. But how has the Nick Nurse experiment worked out for you guys? Obviously, I keep thinking you guys are championship contenders every single year with the roster you put together, and it's just like you can't get over that hump in the postseason. So what are your thoughts on him?
I love Nick Nurse so far. I do. Now, ideally, the playoff performance this past year wasn't great. The Sixers can't seem to get out of the first or the second round. And I think most people would tell you that Knicks and Sixers series was one of the best of the entire playoffs, to be honest with you, because people were kind of bored of the finals. And The East it's not, it's a tough out. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of tough teams again this year. The Knicks have gotten better. The Celtics are
Yeah.
still going to be as good as they were, possibly better, depending on now how well they're gelling in the chemistry. The Sixers have gotten better, I think, but Nick Nurse, I've enjoyed the Nick Nurse experience so far. I adore him way more than I did Doc Rivers. You actually see some of the in-game adjustments that he makes compared to what Doc Rivers has done in the past and still does today.
Yeah.
Um, I still can't believe I still can't believe the Bucks picked him up, and then they went from the record that they had, and I believe he basically went like negative like 15 games like in the games that he played during the entire second half of the
Yeah.
season, and it's just I'll just never get. I think Doc Rivers is one of the most overhyped, overrated coaches of
100%.
all time, but yeah, I like what Nick Nurse did. And we're bringing some pieces back now. Again, Embiid, it comes down to Embiid at the end of the day. And, the best ability is availability. And
Yeah.
he has just struggled to show that. And I was kind of thinking last year would be the year, like, okay, he finally decided to get injured early so that he can
Yeah.
make his appearance fully healthy come postseason time and everything will be
Exactly.
fine. But still wasn't the case. And yeah, I just,
Yeah.
as a Sixers fan, I notice, like, I see everything. I see how he is as a basketball player. I wish he would stop flopping around and flailing around a lot. That's why he gets hurt so damn much, because he tries to. I don't know if it's him trying to break his fall, but he just constantly is on the ground. You're a statue of a human being. Like, you don't need to be on the
Yeah.
ground that much, especially the guards aren't taking you down. Like, let's be
Yeah.
honest. But um, now you have Paul George, another player that struggled throughout his career to maintain that healthiness, and so we'll see. It seems like the city is ready to kind of hand the reins over to Tyrese Maxey, though, in the coming
Oh
years,
yeah.
because Embiid probably has another year or two left in his prime, right? Because centers don't
Which
really
is
age
crazy to
as
say.
gracefully.
Yeah,
It's
it's true.
insane.
It feels like he's. I mean, he averaged what 35 points a game last year, and he had a 70 plus point game. Like he's
Yep.
when he wants to be, and when he's locked in, he's one of the most unstoppable players, and he can shoot the three too. And he's a good defender as well, like a fairly as
Yeah.
far as blocking shots and altering shots and stuff. So he's really got it all going on for him. He took a couple years to kind of blossom when he came in the league, but yeah, that it is sad to say. Like I really thought you guys would make that run with him in his prime, and there's still time for it. I still think he has a couple good years, and Maxi is probably one of the most like I actually went to see the Raptors play the Sixers a couple years ago. It was one of the last games of the season. I think it was when we had Kawhi. I want to say it might have been Maxi's rookie year possibly. And Maxi jumped off the court. His speed and like how quickly he gets down the field, he was the most
Yeah.
impressive player to me, even as a rookie. I love his game, and he really took a leap forward last year, like 26, 27 points a game. He's a baller.
Yeah.
Um, so you guys have the pieces for sure, and I know you guys got rid of Tobias Harris, who's probably one of the most hated people. He's put together a solid career, like stats wise, for a guy who came in at 18 years old. But like every Philly fan I've talked to is like, oh man, Tobias Harris, man, I hate that dude. I don't know.
I will give you the first hot take of the morning, and I will tell you that I think Tobias Harris is overhated.
Yeah,
I don't hate him as much as everybody else does. I know why everybody hates him, and it's because of that massive contract that he
yeah,
signed instead of them signing Jimmy Butler, and that's fair,
yeah,
understandable. But if he didn't make the money that he made, nobody would say a word about him. He wouldn't even be in a
yeah,
conversation. It would be just they would find somebody else to blame, or he would fall into the same blame category as everybody else. But I still think Tobias Harris is a really good basketball player. He definitely probably didn't fit in the style as well with the Sixers. He's somebody that kind of does need the ball in his hands, and you've got, you know, Maxi emerging. You got Embiid, who's already ball dominant, so there's really just not a lot of room left for him. I think he's a solid defender still, but obviously his best years probably behind him, so he'll probably go
yeah,
back to. Well, he is now back in Detroit, so he'll enjoy maybe some of his final years there. But we'll see, man. We'll see. But
for sure.
speaking of that Philly and Toronto connection,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
funny we play like the what if game, right? Like, so I love thinking like, I still think about that game seven shot to this day, right? Kawhi
yeah.
in the corner,
Oh my God,
just the,
yeah,
the, the bounce from absolute hell.
yeah,
And what happens, if the Sixers win that series, if the Sixers win the NBA Finals, right? Like, do they keep that team intact? I mean, because it wasn't a terrible team. The spacing
yeah,
on that team wasn't great, but I mean, you had Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. That was as formidable as a starting five as I've seen in the NBA in quite some time, especially on the Sixers
yeah.
roster. It's just
Absolutely. It was
always
it was
it's
a
always
tough
fun to play that what if
series.
game.
Well, the funny thing is too is we went 0-2 against the Bucks in the next series too. I kind of forgot about that. Like everyone thinks about the Kawhi buzzer beater. I remember I was at my in-laws' house. We were having dinner. The game was on. And I was like peeking my head in, and then the whole family left the table to watch that. And it was just probably that and the Bautista home run against the Rangers are my two favorite memories. I don't remember when Joe Carter hit the walk-off against the Phillies. I was just a young kid at that time, so I don't remember that. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite sports memories for sure. And it's kind of funny to see. We always wanted to run it back one more time with Kawhi, but obviously he wanted to be close to home. And then look at the Clippers, like kind of one of the most underachieving rosters I've seen in the NBA in recent years. So hopefully Paul George. I mean, I do think he's a winner. I think he's a really good player. I'm curious to see. He might be option number three on your guys' team. He probably will be option
Yeah.
number three behind Maxi and Embiid. So hopefully he fits into his new role. And I think as he gets older, he probably realizes this is his last chance to kind of go after a ring. Unless he wants to go like the Chris Paul route and go when he's 39 years old and not playing any minutes and try to do it. Um, but yeah, man, lots of good Philly sports to root for. You mentioned so you're born and raised in Philly, but you spent some time away in the Air Force. I think I only just learned this about you the other day when you were doing your college football dynasty selection as Air
Yeah.
Force. So how many years did you serve? And thank you for your service as well.
First of all, I appreciate that. I only did 4 years. It was something that I kind of, went in with that mentality of I'm only going to do my four and get out.
Yeah,
Most branches, I'm pretty sure you get your option of choosing 4 or 6 years. A lot of people choose six, but I just, they wanted to get that head start to 20 years and that pension. But
yeah,
yeah, I started my 4 years and I got to spend most of it in California. I don't regret any of it.
yeah,
And yeah, it's funny though because I actually worked a regular 9 to 5 job in the military. It's like such a common
yeah,
misconception. Like I would come home all the time during family holidays, and people would be like, like, are you flying plane jets? If you're in the Air
yeah,
Force, and if you're in the Army, it's are you driving tanks yet? Like,
yeah,
not every job has to do with war. And
yeah.
so I actually ended up being I worked at a public affairs office. I was a photojournalist. I got to got to work with a lot of generals, do a lot of stories, excuse me, take a lot of awesome pictures, do a lot of awesome things. And originally, I was going to be a loadmaster, as ditty
That's
as
a
that
great
sounds.
name. Yeah.
But no, so a loadmaster is basically they just take all of the drawing a blank right now. They just take everything that goes onto the
All the
aircraft and
ammunition
they
and stuff,
travel.
like loading
Yeah,
all the yeah,
and you just travel with it, and you get to travel just basically the world, and it's
yeah,
awesome. And so the day before I had to go over to Fort Dix McGuire in Jersey to do the eyes and the ears tests and all that stuff, I ended up going out with a bunch of friends. I wasn't even drinking that night. I was actually
yeah,
the designated driver, and this is
yeah,
back when I wore glasses. I always took my glasses off because I was insecure about them. And so we come out of the bar. I left my glasses on the front of my car seat, get in
yeah.
the car, sit on them, break them. Didn't
No
have
shot.
contacts at the time, and in my feeble little peanut brain, I'm thinking, how hard could the test actually be? So I go down to do all the tests the next morning. Absolutely bomb the depth perception test, all the eyes and ears tests, or excuse me,
Yeah.
the eyes tests, and yeah, so automatic disqualification, right? Certain jobs
Oh
have certain
geez.
requirements, and so automatically disqualified from the loadmaster job, and so had to pick again and landed on photojournalist. But
Yeah.
um,
And
again,
would
it,
they allow you to wear contact lenses to do that test, or is it like does it have to be with the naked eye kind of thing?
I believe it actually is with the naked eye.
Yeah.
In
That's
case
tough.
the worst happens and you have to be using your
Yeah,
naked
yeah,
eye. So I ended up getting eye surgery, not LASIK, but PRK when I was in the
yeah.
military. So it's still going strong. I'm still 20/20
Nice.
vision. Doesn't show when I'm playing Madden, but still 20/20 vision.
Yeah,
Um, but no, it was a fun job, and it's so interesting because downrange that job is super interesting in the fact that it's basically called combat camera. And so if you have to go downrange, any of those like pictures you've ever seen on like National Geographic and anything like that, like
yeah,
those are the kind of photos you're taking. And they give you a camera and they give you a gun. And they basically
yeah,
tell you, hey, if you can, try to take pictures first. If you give me a
yeah.
gun and a camera in a war zone, you're coming back with zero pictures
Oh
because
yeah,
I'm
100%,
like I'm taking care of
100%.
my ass first, like 1000%. So
Yeah,
it was always an interesting job, but I knew that I didn't want to do it forever. A lot of military people love to, they're super gung ho about volunteering to go downrange and punch some sand, and more power to them. It's just it was never my shtick. So I didn't end up having to do any crazy deployments. Didn't have to go
Yeah.
to the Middle East or anything like that. I had some people that did, and I've heard some of the stories, and I've kind of seen how their mental changed
Yeah.
upon coming back, and it's something that I'm grateful that I didn't have to do, and didn't have to experience, because it's not for everybody. Let's be honest, it's not
Oh
for
no.
everybody.
Some would
But
argue it's not for anybody. It's a lot of mental fortitude to be able to do something like that. Like,
oh
I
yeah,
think the vast majority of people would not know how to handle themselves in that type of situation. I know 100% for a fact I would not be up for it. I'd be cowering in a hole somewhere if I was ever, thrown into a conflict, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, man, it's so you were able to spend your whole time in California like basically on the same base or like traveling around throughout the state, cuz California is one of the biggest states. I don't know a lot of geography in the states, but I know California is humongous.
so I was
Um
stationed on the Central Coast. I was stationed at a base called Vandenberg Air Force Base, and their whole mission over there was rockets and satellites. And so it's for geographical purposes, it's
yeah.
an hour um, north of Santa Barbara. Santa
Okay,
Barbara is
yeah.
about like 2.5, 3 hours from LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right in the middle there, and I was right in between. I was sandwiched between two big college towns, UCSB, Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
and San Luis Obispo, which is another big. They call it SLO for
Yeah.
short, but another big college town over there. And honestly, just the base itself was kind of in a desolate area, a remote area, so you had to drive whenever you were going anywhere. You had to drive, but
Yeah.
it was cool because you just leave the front gate and it's just ocean for hours, and
Yeah.
it's so scenic, it's so relaxing, and I would probably move back to California long term tomorrow if I could.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I just love my time there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it is gorgeous. Like I spent 1 week in California. My wife had a conference. We drove down from San Fran down to San Diego and made our way. And I was stupid enough that I missed the turnoff for Big Sur. So I literally took the farmlands the entire way down. I was like, it's still beautiful. It's still gorgeous. Like a little bit more, desert and whatnot. But it is beautiful for sure. And I've been
so
to
did you
to
actually
Santa
check out
Barbara
Big
too.
Sur?
No, we missed it completely.
Oh,
And I was like, you know what? At this point, we'd already driven for an hour. I was like, okay, I'm expecting to see water at some point. And yeah, we just ended up going through a bunch of farmers field. It's funny because I was looking at these brands. I was like, oh man, that's where our lettuce comes from. I've seen this in my fridge. Um, it was still great. We did get to obviously see the coast. Like once we got down closer to, I mean, the drive to San Diego was still pretty nice along the coast,
yeah,
but yeah, no, it was gorgeous down there. We stayed in Monterey too. I think Monterey is like right
Monterey is
kind of
really nice.
yeah, there were like seals out there. We were having dinner, and then you're out on the little harbor there, and it's like
Yeah.
seals barking and stuff. It was pretty cool. It's like a different world for sure,
And
and different
so
from Philly for sure.
fun fact about Monterey. So like every military job that you have, right? So basically, the way the timeline goes, you go to basic training, and for the military or for the Air Force, excuse me, it's
Yep,
Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. When you're done, while you're 8.5 weeks there, you go to whatever operational base handles your specific job, right? So for
yep,
me, mine was actually an Army base. It was Fort Meade over in Maryland. The linguist job is actually at Monterey.
yeah. Oh, really?
So for
And
yeah, for the linguists and the translators and all that, yeah, it's actually Monterey.
oh, that's interesting. And it's kind of making me appreciate like just the pure scope of the military personnel in the United States. Like, because from Canada we have a very tiny active military. Like you guys are a
Yeah,
military essentially. You protect our northern borders. Your Air Force is all over Canadian airspace because our planes are probably 40 years old at this point and probably not even airborne. But that's one thing. Like when you drive around Canada, it's super rare to see like a olive drab Jeep somewhere, like a truck. Like you don't see it ever. It's like, oh, you
yeah,
pointed out it's a big deal if you see it. As soon as you cross the border and you're driving on interstates, every rest stop has got military vehicles, and it seems like almost every family has had at least one member who's served in some regard. So
yeah,
yeah, I think you guys have probably the largest standing military in the world, or one of them, but definitely that history of military tradition is like huge down there compared to what we have over here.
yeah.
Um, but I feel like I got a good kind of sense of your Philly fandom and all that. I wanted to move on to your first Madden because Madden's obviously the game that kind of pulled you into content creation in the first place. What
Yeah.
was your first Madden? Do you remember the first game that you
Yeah,
bought?
vividly. My first Madden was Madden 20, going on
Yeah.
5 years now.
Wow. Really? That's
Yeah,
it, Madden
yeah.
20. So is that the
I'm
first
still
time you played?
relatively new.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, that's interesting. I thought you were gonna pull out like Madden, the one with like I was Madden 2005, but I was like offline franchise for 15 years. I didn't play MUT till Madden 20. So were you a big gamer before that? Because you seem like a guy who kind of touches
Absolutely.
grass too. Yeah, you were. Okay. What
Yeah.
did you play before Madden?
I mean, man, I grew up on everything. I mean, I grew up on Sega, on Super Nintendo. I
Yep.
mean, the tail end of Atari. I was born
Yep.
in 1990. I'm not, showing my age a
Yeah.
little bit, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might not look my age sometimes, but I was born in 1990. I'm a 90s baby,
Yeah.
and I grew up on so many different games. I mean, I played Dr. Mario on Super
Yep.
Nintendo. I play Zelda, Link to the Past. I mean, you name it, I played it.
Yeah.
I used to live in arcades. I go down the Jersey Shore down Wildwood, and I would actually just spend
Yeah.
time. There's an arcade there called Ed's Funcade. I would just play in that all the time. I'd play, Cruising USA, Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
Fun fact: Crazy Taxi is still downloaded on my Xbox right now. It's like my weird, like therapeutic game that I'll play sometimes just when I'm bored and doing absolutely
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing. Like I'll play Crazy Taxi. It's yeah, no. Final Fantasy was a big
Yeah.
RPG guy growing up. Loved Final Fantasy. Just played Final Fantasy 16. That came out recently.
Yeah.
Phenomenal game. Um, and I still can appreciate a good. Me and Joe Bruin were talking about this last night
Yeah.
actually, and I can still appreciate a good single player game if the story is good enough. I found out last night that Joe Bruin has never played any of the Call of Duty campaigns. I was shocked. Like,
Oh,
just
that's
like
nuts. Yeah.
he has no idea about soap or any of the storylines. And I'm like, how did you never play any of the campaigns? And it's
Yeah.
not for everybody though, right? Because now we live in a world where people want to play competitively, they want to play
Yeah.
online, and that's awesome too, right? The fact that gaming has kind of come so far, it's just awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I started in Madden 20. I would have loved to have been playing Madden sooner, or yeah, sooner than that. But when I got out to my first station in California, I was stationed. You're in the dormitories for the Air Force. It's the
Hmm.
barracks for other places that don't spend as much money on their people. But
Yeah.
I had no internet, and I tried to play in a franchise for Madden 25. Ironically, the original Madden 25, and I had no internet. I couldn't play the game. I kept disconnecting, so
Yeah.
it was just I knew right then and there, like, all right, I can't even game casually, much less competitively anymore for the time being. So I kind of had to take a break from it, and
Yeah.
yeah, I jumped in Madden 20. Got done with the military in 2018, and excuse me, yeah, I just jumped in, and it's interesting because if you ask certain people like myself, I would tell you that the Maddens have probably gotten worse since I
Yeah.
started playing from 20 all the way up to 24 this year, with the exception of maybe Madden 21. I think
Yeah.
probably the best, probably the best Madden in the last 5 years. But um, yeah, no, I just started playing, and I actually started on Facebook Gaming. Fun fact, was not on
Really?
Twitch initially.
Ciabatta Mitch's territory, right? He's the only Facebook gaming streamer that I've heard of. Actually, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Started on Facebook Gaming, and this is back when the club tournaments were still going on, right? MCS was
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
strong, and the club tournaments were still going on. And EA, please, if you're hearing me out here, bring back the club tournaments. I
Oh,
love
those are the
those.
best. Yeah.
I would love them to bring that back for college football. Like, imagine a college
Oh
football club
man.
series where you could pick your own
Yeah.
college. Be
That'd
awesome.
be insane.
But I ended up beating Dubby in the finals, or not the finals of to make it to the live event,
Yeah.
the qualifiers.
For
And
the
so I beat
Eagles Club
W in that.
Championship.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
beat W in the final 8 to make it to the final 4, which is again right down the street from me over here at Lincoln Financial Field. And I ended up, I took that momentum and ended up switching from Facebook Gaming over to Twitch.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And because Facebook Gaming was like, I don't know if they still have the same like rules and regulations now, but like my streams would used to be taken down just for playing the Madden menu music. Like they were that strict about
Oh
music.
wow. That's
Like if
nuts.
you're playing
Yeah.
the menu music in the game that you're playing, that would take your stream down. So it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm good. No more of this. So I kind of took that momentum and jumped on over to Twitch, and the rest was kind of history. And also, fun fact: the person that I played at that Eagles Club tournament, none other than a 16-year-old Henry.
No way. Before the fame, before
Before
the
the
the all-time
fame,
earnings leader. That's crazy.
I
That's
played Henry, lost by a game-losing field goal, and yeah, the rest was history. And here we are now.
yeah. That's bonkers, man. That's crazy. And what I hear in that story too, like talking about the club championships, that was a lot of fun. As somebody who I don't watch a ton of MCS, like I'll
Yeah,
tune in for the drops. I don't watch a ton of competitive gameplay.
yeah,
But you know, there were so many great moments there, and so many people actually taking home money from those tournaments. But the fact that you and W were both playing for the Eagles, your actual team that you root for in real life, I feel like a lot of people, there's always talk of, oh yeah, which is going to be a soft team to try for, right? Like back in the
Yeah.
day, you'd hear guys
Yep.
playing in tournaments that aren't the team that they represent. But respect
People would
for actually trying
they
to
would try to
represent
avoid
your
the
home team.
competition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So respect to both you guys for actually going out there and repping the Eagles. Um, it's crazy. Like you talk about getting on at Madden 20. Madden 20 was the first Madden that I played Ultimate Team, and the movement back then was a lot more arcadey, a lot faster. Like the clips that you could make were insane. Like the stuff that happened was just, it was a fun Madden to play. At the time everyone was like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. This is not simulation football." And then now we've had, I think it was Madden 21 was the first year where it was kind of 50-50. Like they moved over to next gen. Was it like halfway through the year they moved to next gen or something, or was it?
Yeah.
Well,
Halfway
not
through.
many people had next gen consoles when it first came out. And now after 4 years of seeing the new movement, and I've heard that college looks a lot more like Madden 20 than the last few Maddens we've gotten.
Yep.
So is that something that excites you? Like potentially having a new game that kind of takes you back to when you first got into competitive football games?
It does excite me, and it's definitely not as extreme as Madden 20 was, right? Because Madden
Yeah,
20, I mean, we were bordering on Madden 2004 Michael Vick territory, right? Like
yeah,
where you could just kind of run around, and it was an arcade
yeah,
game, right? It
yeah,
basically
yeah,
was an arcade game. But speaking of W, right? I saw his highlight reel of him playing college football 25, and like the movement looks like it's back, especially the spin moves. Spin moves might be back,
yeah,
and that's good, right? It's good for clipping. It's good for all that stuff. And
yeah,
honestly, when we look back and we talk about Madden 20, Madden 20 kind of had the same problem that a lot of other games like Madden 24 had, and it was just the strength of some of these abilities, the strength of some of these X factors. And
yeah,
you know, at the end of the year for Madden 24, I get it, right? Like it's the summer, just let anarchy reign
yeah,
and let the vanguards loose and do all that stuff. I get that, right? Do I
yeah,
love playing against it nonstop? No. Do I understand it from a gameplay perspective? Yes. But Madden 20, I mean, this was like this for a good portion, if not half of the year, right? You had your NFL 100 players, right? You had Randy
yeah.
Moss that you could man up all
Moss
11
100
players on
was
the
crazy.
defense,
Yeah.
Moss 100,
First
and
pass of
Randy
the
Moss would
game.
still come
Yeah.
down with the ball, first play of the game, or people would
Yeah.
hide him on the bench for an important
Yeah.
play later on in the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Freight Train Dickerson, right? Dude would break a
Yeah.
thousand tackles, like just absolutely OP abilities. And that's been the issue, I think, with MUT for a lot of people, myself included,
Yeah.
over the years, is just that balance of abilities, right? It's hard
For sure.
to make something too strong or too not strong, and it's just that balance. And sometimes they find it, sometimes it's not so great. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to college, man. I am. The gameplay looks phenomenal. Everything looks phenomenal, and yeah, there's gonna be something for everybody in college football, right? Whether you want to play solo battles on College Ultimate Team, whether you want to play something competitive, if you're a comp person, if you're a regular, I just want to play against the computer person, if you're doing a dynasty rebuild, there is literally something for everybody. I
Yeah.
so far I cannot find a way or a reason that you can find to complain about this game.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I personally am like, do I want to play? I'm playing Diamond Dynasty 2 in MLB. And I'm like, do I want to play three pay to win modes in one year? And two of them from EA where like I know pack odds are gonna be terrible. I didn't pull a single LTD all year, and I stream a ton of Madden. But yeah, like Road to Glory Dynasty sounds like a lot of fun, and doing like a CFM type Dynasty is like that's gonna be great content too. Like not just for
Yeah,
Twitch streamers, but YouTubers are gonna have like their pick, like storylines built into the game for you that makes for easy
oh, yeah.
content that people are actually going to want to watch. So definitely excited to see what people cook up for that. But we talk about comp, and I know I get the impression like just from the appearances we've seen you on Bot Wars, which is a competitive environment, and you've had some legendary matchups there. I've seen you in basketball games on Twitter getting competitive too. Are you, would you say that like no matter what you're undertaking that you're a competitive person in general?
I am, and when it comes to gaming, I say this all the time. I've talked to other creators who are more, they lean on their personality
Mm-hmm.
and aren't competitive. I won't say names, but there are some emerging content creators who are like that, and they're like, yeah, like I really want to get into competitive this year, and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I tell them honestly, with a straight face, don't do it if you can help it.
Yeah.
Like, because the minute that you turn that competitive switch on, you'll never be able to turn it off again. And there
Yeah.
are days where, at least when it comes to like streaming and Madden and things like that, I kind of wish I wasn't like that. I kind of wish I was just playing solo battles. I kind of wish I
Yeah.
was doing dynasty rebuilds, because
Yeah.
like you said, you've seen me. I get charged up. I am a very competitive person by nature. I don't like losing. That's just
Yeah.
that's it. I take it gracefully sometimes. I'm a big person of respect. If you're being a little bit, we could talk Madden, you can trash talk, you can do things like that. But when you kind of cross that threshold, then the trash
Yeah,
talk gets a little extra, right? But you see me in MCS, you see me in Bot Wars. I get charged up. I do. When I do things like that, I have to full send, right? I don't know any other way,
absolutely.
and I have to just full send it. But I'm a very competitive person by nature. Even my girlfriend and I, if we go to one of those arcades, right? If we go
Yeah,
play
yeah,
like a little basketball, like she's competitive. We're both very
yeah.
competitive. So it's a
You
little
found
bit
your match then. Yeah.
it can lead to a little bit of headbutting, but no, I am definitely very competitive by nature, and it's definitely always been that way. I used to play on game battles. I used to play on, the game battle ladders for Call of Duty back
Yeah,
when, like Call of Duty 3, right? Like a lot of people don't remember Call of Duty 3. They remember, Black Ops. They remember World at War. They
yeah.
remember all these other Call of Duties. But Call of Duty 3 was when game battles really kind of took off. And yeah, I've been playing competitively
Yeah.
for, as long as I can remember.
Is that like a site like Players Lounge or Gamer Saloon or something like that? Is that what Game Battles is?
So game battles was more what can I compare that to? So they eventually became MLG, like Major League
Okay,
Gaming.
yeah, yeah.
They partnered with them, but they were always kind of known as game battles. And yeah, they would have ladders, right? You would just search and find matchups or pick up a matchup that was kind of on the website
Yeah.
ready to go. And I'd done that for a long time. And even going further back than that, we talk about Madden, I used to play in the original Madden challenges, right? Again,
Yeah.
I'm not old, but I'm not
Yeah.
that young either. I used to play in those Madden challenges back when Madden Nation was the thing. The Madden bus was the thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Problem, and Big Gene were household names.
Yeah.
Shout out Big Gene, another Philly guy. But and fun fact, there used to be a mall here in Center City, Philadelphia called the Gallery, and I went there back in 2003 or 2004. I used to be the guy that would beat up on all of his friends. I'd win all the local GameStop tournaments and things like that.
Yeah.
And I actually went there and I ended up losing to Big Gene. He just beat the doors off me 17-0 in like 2 minutes. These are 2 minute quarters, and I was
Yeah.
down 17-0 in like the first 90 seconds. And yeah, that at that stage back then, it was like if 3 possessions with or without ball, like the game is over. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, I've been playing this game and doing this for a long time, but I'm at my core, I am definitely very competitive.
For sure. And do you think like playing those IRL environments too, like that changed a lot? Like Madden 20 was peak COVID like going on, so like everything was shut down. It was all like, they're sending you guys webcams and stuff to stream from your bedrooms or wherever your stream setup is, right? So it was really different setup, but like,
Yeah.
you know, I guess you find those hidden gem players that nobody's heard of when you go to these tournaments. They're just like super sweaty at the game and like really tough. Do you think players like that still exist? Because I feel like now if there's people that are in the top 100 of MCS, like almost all of them stream or have some sort of content. Like, do you ever run into guys who are like, who the hell is this person? But they're like pretty cracked at Madden, and they give you a run
Yeah,
for your money.
yeah, you can still run into those, absolutely. I'm trying to think of any that come off the top of my head, but yeah, there's definitely still players that are like that, and certain players like that, I wish they would stream more, and
Yeah,
some of them may not have the internet capability or the setup or the living situation to do it. So I understand it, but it's always been my big gripe with comp guys is that they don't really take advantage of their standing. I know
yeah,
it's at the end of the day, the comp scene, if in competitive anything, being the best at something is always going to be the top 1% of something, but people still want to watch that, right? There's a lot of people that just didn't take advantage of that. There's a lot of streamers that will kind of stream a couple days, couple weeks, couple months of the year and then disappear. And it's just like, people want to watch you. They will watch you. They'll tune into your streams every day. And there are people that have won, like you have your Dreamies, your Skimbos, your Henrys, your Pavins. Like there's certain people that stream a lot, don't stream a lot. There's some people that have never
yeah,
streamed after winning a major tournament, winning major money, and there's just so much momentum to piggyback off of,
for sure.
to help your brand, to help grow. And just some people just don't want to do that. Some people would rather just sit in the dark and play their
Yeah,
games and just go about their business, and that's fine too. But if they, for the same people that want the esport to grow, they want the prize pools to keep getting bigger, and they are,
yeah,
and they could still continue to get bigger, hopefully in the future. You need more eyes, you need more names, you need more people out there with their hats in the ring. But
for
we'll see
sure.
if that comes to fruition later on or not.
Well, and at least in the Madden community, like, the prize pool is getting bigger every year. Like the MCS, like compared to like a game like MLB The Show or other sports games, like we talk about the MCS not being perfect, but it is probably better than a lot of sports games, like as far as
Yeah,
being polished and actually solidified that you know what's coming out every year. It's not like random haphazardly thrown together tournaments. Like
yeah,
it's a well put together schedule. But aside from maybe Henry, it's difficult. Like to make your livelihood winning tournaments is such a high stakes thing. It's
yeah.
you're one cheap fumble away from potentially not making any earnings or talking yourself out of
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars. So whereas like you said, if you take advantage of the content and the exposure that those playing in those games gets you, you're able to put together a solid income for yourself outside of the competitive thing. And then also, how much do you think? Obviously, making a live event is a big thing. Like you got to be in the elite of the elite. But how much do you think competitive video gaming is a younger man's sport? Do you find that like because eventually we do slow down, like just naturally, the vision to your brain is just a
Yeah.
millisecond slower. Do you find that the game is skewed in favor of young players to some degree at the highest level?
You know what? I don't think Madden is. I mean, some
Yeah,
games might be like your Call of Duty's definitely, right? But
yeah,
Madden, like, yeah, you still have to be able to make reads and use
yeah,
your brain and kind of think
for
on the
sure.
fly and do things on the fly. But, you know, it- I mean, we just watched W. W just made a live event last
Yeah,
year. So, I mean, do I know what the cutoff window in terms of age
yeah,
is? No. But I don't think there's a specific cutoff. I mean, maybe 40, maybe 40
yeah.
for Madden, but, nobody's really there yet. So, I, yeah, I
Hopefully
mean,
we
I'm
see
still,
people competing into their 40s. I'd love to see that. I think it
that
would
would be
be
awesome.
yeah. But no,
That would be
you're
awesome.
right. It's like Madden as far as the sports game goes, it's definitely the most strategic of it. Like, I don't know if ebooks are a thing for 2K or MLB the Show. I can't imagine like MLB's see-ball hit ball essentially, maybe pitching you could use some help with, but like yeah, Madden you really have to put together a game plan and like how much do you think real football knowledge benefits people? Like do you think you need to have any real football knowledge to get good at Madden or do you think you can kind of piece it together just from playing the game?
I will tell you no,
Yep.
and here's why. One of the bigger names in the MCS who does not play in the MCS anymore, you might know where
Yep.
I'm going with this. Joke.
Yep.
Joke has gone
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
He's doing
yeah.
his gambling
Crypto stuff,
Discord
right?
now.
Oh,
Beat
gambling.
the
Okay, there we
books.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing his Beat the Books Discord now. But Joke infamously said that he never watched a down of NFL. Now he obviously has to because it's
That's
part of his
wild.
job, but
Yeah.
never watched a down of NFL. And yeah, I mean, you can familiarize yourself with coverages and schemes and things like that. And there's definitely a knowledge gap when it comes to that. But in terms of actually knowing a thing about the NFL,
Yeah.
Joke didn't have to.
Yeah, that's true. And was that Madden 20, I think, when he won with Tress
As a
Way as
runner,
his QB. I
Tressway at
mean,
quarterback.
so that I mean, talk about that's one thing too. I guess that's one of the things that gave Madden 20, left a bad taste in people's mouth is that you could have the team that won the Madden Bowl not even having a quarterback on the roster essentially, like having
Yeah.
what was it? He handed off with a certain hand and that made him a glitchy player. Like I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't seen that since
It
in
was
regards
the
to
hand. It was the hand of the quarterback. If you had a
yeah,
left-handed quarterback and you're running left, you wanted to have that quarterback in. It
yeah,
was kind of a giveaway for the tell, but
yeah.
that's how OP. Not even how bad run defense was, but just how OP the run was in that
Yeah,
game.
it was great. I remember Volterex had like an insane run. Like he was using the Cardinals or something. Like it was a
Drini.
crazy. Yeah,
Yep.
like we saw some crazy. And personally, I prefer Madden when passing is rewarded a little bit more. There are always guys who are going to be able to pass on you. Like there's great players. They'll be able to run a
Yep.
pass first offense, and it's just more fun I find for content. Like I can only watch people run stretch or halfback base so many times. But yeah, that game, the Oakland tour, everybody was just running the ball, and when Dickerson came out, it was like oh God, okay, another one of these with Freight Train 100 or whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, interesting. Hopefully, well, I guess we'll see for Madden 25. Like nobody's even thinking about Madden 25 right now because we got NCAA ahead of us. But
Nope.
I'm curious to see what direction they go in Madden 25. Do you have any thoughts on what you think EA is planning for that? Did you play the beta at all?
I played one game of the beta. I typically traditionally don't like playing betas because they're going to end up fixing things in between the
Yeah,
time you play the beta and the time the final product comes
yeah,
out. I did see a little bit. I've heard rumblings, and I didn't play it in the one game that I played, but I've heard rumblings that people are still going to be able to roll out, and I really
yeah,
hope that's not the case because defending the rollout this year sucked, especially
yeah,
during the summer. And I was able to live with it because it was during the summer. But if we
yeah,
have to deal with that day one of a Madden,
yeah,
it's not going to be fun. So right now, I'm putting my faith in EA,
yeah.
and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm full steam ahead right now on college football 25, and I'm, like you, I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to go once both games are out in the world. How are they going to be
Yeah.
able to balance that? Because as somebody that's going to play Ultimate Team,
Yeah.
I hope that they're going to balance the content out, right? Like if they end up having like a same day release, like maybe they'll
Yeah.
drop college in the morning, Madden in the afternoon,
Yeah.
or vice versa. Either
Or
way,
stagger the
maybe,
content days like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus
or
Tuesday, Thursday,
stagger it. Yeah.
Saturday, something thing. That would be a W for the full time content guys that are out there streaming every single day. Um, Big Kep checking in the chat. Another Philly native coming in to check out the podcast. Appreciate you, Kep. Yeah, but it'll definitely be interesting, and I'll definitely play both games. The one thing for a longest time I was like, I don't know if I want to spend $100 on a game that I'm going to be hopping over to Madden in August anyways. But if they can find a way to get people on both games. Yeah, I don't know how long NCAA is going to last into the fall, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to see it, man. I guess it's unprecedented territory. We haven't seen it in 10 years. So if we could have two football games out there that kind of push each other, I know it's the same company making both of them. I think it could overall be really good for the esport for sure. One thing I want to talk about you as well. So you got a subathon coming up, starting I guess on Monday. Is it starting when the new game
Starting
drops?
tomorrow. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So, do you have anything cooking up for that? Have you done a subathon in the past, or is this one of your first forays into it?
I've done a couple 24 and 48 hours. I have done one subathon before. It was a while ago. I don't 3 years ago
Yeah.
maybe. So we'll see what happens with this one, but I do got a couple things cooked up for it, and it's if it goes into Madden 25, and I'm hoping it does, then
Yeah.
awesome. If not, then whatever. I'll take a day off in between at some point. But yeah, right now I'm actually gonna. I finished up the graphic for the subathon last night. I'm gonna
Yep.
probably post it after
Nice.
this podcast today, but I'm going to have it to where people can, X amount of subs will get them their own player on the Air Force Dynasty rebuild, and then other
Nice.
subs or bit donations or whatever will get them their own attribute upgrades as well throughout the process. And then think of some other things along the way too, possibly a sub goal.
Yep.
I know of an NFL player, probably not a household name, but I know of an
Yep.
NFL player that will actually be in Philly within the next month. He actually hangs out in my
Nice.
stream. We've talked a lot. Just got drafted recently, and I
Oh
wouldn't
wow,
mind maybe making a sub goal of like something crazy, like maybe getting like absolutely speared by an NFL player.
dude,
Um,
that's brave.
so I'm
Oh
gonna
my
see
god.
if he'll be around when he comes into Philly. If he's got like a quick couple minutes to just knock the
Just
life
spear
out of
you.
me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Just a drive-by spear job. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Strap a GoPro to your head and get the POV version of that happening. That would be wild, man. I don't think any. I mean, most of these esports athletes out here I don't think would be able to take a hit. Like, do you think is there anybody in the Madden community that you think would be able to take a hit from a or play like who are guys that you think would actually be like good athletes in the Madden community?
I know Kep definitely couldn't take a hit, but
Shots fired to Cap.
no, I mean, some guys. There are some athletes, right? There are some athletes in the community, right? Clef was an athlete
Yep.
at least high school, if not definitely college. Fendler was a lineman.
Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely some guys that can take a hit.
Yeah.
How well they receive it or how well the aftermath is of that, who knows? But yeah, there's also some people that probably don't touch basketballs or footballs or grass
Or
much that
grass in general.
are
Yeah.
literal twigs and might break in half if you touch them with
Yeah.
force of more than 2 miles an hour. But
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah, so you seem like a guy who kind of gets out and touches grass fairly regularly. Like, do you have a pretty active like social life outside of streaming? Because it's really easy to kind of. I mean, there's always something to
yeah,
grind. There's always
I,
content to work on.
I definitely try to more so in the off season, right? Because once the games come out,
Yeah,
it's definitely grind time. I tell people, I've enjoyed my half of the summer, but now once college football
yeah,
comes out now I have an extra or one less month of the summer technically now. But
yeah,
it's definitely grind time. After that initial wave of the games coming out, then you kind of get back to a little bit of normalcy and
yeah.
going out and hanging out. But yeah, I definitely try to be as active as I can. I'm probably gonna have to cut one of the subathon days a little short. One of the nights coming up because Deadpool Wolverine is coming out in 2 weeks, I
Oh yeah,
believe. Definitely gonna go check that
nice,
out. Have to. And then I'm actually linking up with Nick Mazesco and T Davis, heading up
nice.
to over to Cleveland for SummerSlam, first weekend
Oh
of August.
sweet. Oh, that's
So
awesome. Are
Yeah.
you a big
Now,
wrestling guy? I've seen you tweeting some stuff about wrestling recently. Are you still big into wrestling? Is that something you've always followed?
I've definitely, so I always used to watch like the big pay-per-views, right? Like Royal
Yeah,
Rumble and WrestleManias were always like a must watch, right? Because it's just
yeah,
like just the idea of both of them were always awesome, and it's just the spectacle of it all.
for sure.
But especially in the last year or so, I've definitely kind of gotten more into it again. I always used to just keep track of like the recaps on like Bleacher Report and things like
Yeah, yeah,
that. But yeah, growing up in the '90s, absolutely, the '90s WWF was everything.
yeah,
WCW, ECW, watched all of it. But now, it's kind of it's become cool again, I
yeah.
guess, for a
It
lot of
has.
people. But
It has.
no, I've definitely been kind of keeping up with it and definitely watch it semi regularly now. There's a couple TikTokers that kind of you can watch for the recaps as well. Like shout out like
Yeah,
the Santi Zaps of the world and people like that. And my girlfriend and I, she's like into it now too. She loves some of the women wrestlers and it's fun, man. It's no different than a TV show for some people. It's a soap opera for some people. It's no different
yeah.
than watching your favorite weekly episodic TV show, honestly.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's I saw WrestleMania that came out just earlier this year, and I haven't watched wrestling in a long time. I used to be big into it in elementary school. Like it
Yep.
was the Attitude Era, like Generation X, The Rock. Shawn Michaels was probably my favorite wrestler growing up. And I just remember
Same.
everybody at recess time, like, oh, suck it, suck it. Like it was like when you're, 10 years old and didn't even know what it meant at the time. But it was a great era of wrestling. So seeing I think I saw it on Twitter, and I feel like I ended up watching the entirety of the championship match, and it brought back so much nostalgia, like the Undertaker popping out,
Yeah.
The Rock coming in looking like insane at age 52 or whatever, like
Yeah.
looking probably better than he did in his prime. And I don't
Yeah.
know, it stirred up some feelings. I was like, man, maybe this is something I could get back into after having I missed John Cena's entire career. I missed Roman Reigns' career. I didn't know any of those guys, so but seeing those old school guys come back definitely stirred
Yeah.
up some memories for sure.
Well, and John
Um,
Cena retiring next year too, so that's gonna be a hell of a ride now too.
yeah, and he's actually had success too. Like, you see The Rock was kind of the first wrestling guy that really broke into it, like being the highest grossing male
Yep.
actor. Was insane, and he was doing that when he was putting on movies like Hercules. I was like, who's watching these movies? I don't know, but no, he's actually like a legit actor at this point. And
Yep.
now you see John Cena having success too, getting some bigger roles as
Yep.
well. So it seems like for a lot of time, wrestling kind of chewed up and spit out these dudes. Like there's a lot of sad
Yeah.
stories in wrestling.
Yeah.
But now it seems like they're able to kind of parlay that success because I
Yeah.
always feel bad when I see these guys 70 years old out there taking falls in the ring. Like Ric Flair looks like he's 1,000 years old out there, still
Ric
actively in the
Flair
ring.
Ric Flair will live out the literal movie of the wrestler with Mickey
Yeah,
Rourke. He will die in the
he'll die in the
ring,
ring.
and
Yeah,
it's a sad thing to say out loud, but I guarantee he will die in the ring because
yeah,
he can't get away
yeah.
from it, and
And I
and
feel
and
like
that's fine, right?
Yeah, and I feel like he's highly medicated too. I mean, the stories I hear about him on private jets and the planes, and the amount that this guy's
Yeah.
drinking and stuff, he's probably pickled his liver several times over at this point. Or who knows? He might also outlive all of us at this point too. Like I feel like the guy's untouchable, but um, there's actually this great show. I don't know if it's in the States, but it's like Vice News does this show called The Dark Side of the Ring, and I just started watching it.
Yep.
It's all these
Yep.
sad stories about wrestling, and kind of a true crime element to it. But man, there's
The
five
The
seasons,
Ric
10
Flair
episodes
one
each.
was.
Yeah, I've only gotten like 5 episodes in. I think I just watched the one that was about the Iron Claw movie that came out, which I haven't seen yet, but it was
I
about
haven't seen it
those.
yet either.
Yeah, I want to see it. It's on Amazon for free now, so I'll check that out at some point this summer. But yeah, wrestling, man, it's an interesting thing, and it's funny because as a kid, I don't know if we thought I don't know if I ever thought it was real, like, but it's almost now. It's funny how the language around it has changed. Now it's about the acting portion of it is important. The storylines are important. Like
Yeah.
everybody knows that it's not real. Everybody who's in their 30s, but it doesn't take away from the enjoyment factor of it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they were able to kind of break down that facade and still have people want to watch and tune in. It's kind
Yeah.
of like it's like a soap opera for dudes essentially.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But the last thing I wanted to ask you about, I feel like we had a really good conversation. I've got to know a lot about your origin and your kind of competitive journey. Well, two questions.
Oh boy.
The first one is, do you have a rival or somebody that you feel like every time you match up that you just they give you the toughest games, or somebody that you feel like I just can't beat this dude, or
I
somebody
don't
that you
know if
really get
I
up
have.
whenever you play them?
I think any competitive game, I like, and it's gonna be a cop out answer, but I think I get up for any competitive game.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had people that I've kind of gotten a little chippy with in the past, and it happens playing Madden, and we're all competitive, and things happen, things get said sometimes, but I don't know if I have any one specific rival or any one person that gives me more crazy games than anybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
you play so many of these people on the circuit. You play in ladders, weekend long ladders, where you play some people more
Yeah.
than once, right? I mean, I've played some of the best players in the world on a daily basis. I've played the Henrys, I played 88. I've played
Yeah.
Dez, I've played Skimbo, I've played Dubby, I've played. I could keep
Yeah.
going. Like, there's just so many of those players that I've played, but I don't think there's any one,
Yeah.
and in a not in a disrespectful way. Like, I don't think there's anyone that stands out above the rest because they're all just like phenomenal Madden players, and they're all equal hell games, to be honest.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good way to approach it too. You can't really take any of these guys like once you make it, beyond maybe the initial elimination or ladder stage.
Yep.
You can't really take any of those games lightly because anybody can win a Madden game at any given
Yep.
time if you're not locked in or if you have a couple of things go your way, some DDA against your favor. But
Yep.
the final thing I wanted to ask you about, so future goals for content, and obviously you've got YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook gaming, not anymore, but
No.
so what are some of your goals that you have if you had a long-term goal for yourself as a content creator, and maybe some shorter-term goals that you're looking to get done over the course of the NCAA season and Madden 25 coming up?
Short term, I mean, just grind every day. I want to be able to put out content every day. That's something that I've kind of gotten lax and lazy about over
Yeah,
the course of however much time. But um, just be able to put out content every day in some form or fashion, whether it be a YouTube video, a TikTok video, an IG reel, something like that. And to take a quick little detour, and this is like advice to any other content creators that are getting ready to gear up for college football 25. And even you, Murph, if you're
yeah,
not doing it
yeah,
yourself,
for
anybody
sure.
in the chat, anybody, utilize every social media that you have at your disposal. We live in a golden age of social media, whether it be for better or for worse sometimes. And
Yeah,
I tell people all the time that if you're not utilizing all of this stuff that's at your disposal, like I said, TikToks, IG Reels,
yeah,
YouTube, Twitch streaming, you name it, you're doing yourself a disservice because there's just so many different avenues for content creators to make money and get paid today that it's
yeah,
almost scary if you're not using it. So, um, yeah, for short term, just put together as much content as possible. I would love to make a live event. I
yeah.
would. I know. I tell people all the time. My window's probably not getting any wider. It's probably closing
Yeah.
more than it's getting wide. But I just know that in a live event atmosphere, that I would be absolutely electric, and I would give
Oh,
people a show because
100%.
at the end of the day, like, I want to win, right? I do. I love being competitive. I love winning. I love competing. But like, I just love putting on a show more than anything. I like to
Yeah,
entertain people. That's why I do this. It's why I stream in the first place. But long term, long term, I wouldn't mind. I don't know if there's ever going to be a path for me because I'm sometimes critical of EA
yeah,
to a too critical standpoint, maybe.
yeah,
I don't know. But I would love to be a part of the EA Creator Network. I would. I would love to be able to work with them and be a part of this and see what a lot of people get to do and just kind of be involved with it a little bit. But
for sure.
yeah, that would be a cool long term goal. Whether that happens, remains to be seen. But
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think those are some solid goals, and I think we can all agree that we would love to see you in a live event because you're definitely built for the moment. A lot of people, they were peak COVID players. When you're in your own home and your own safe space playing, and nobody's gonna come through the screen and be right up in your face. It's a different thing than sitting a couple feet away from somebody. Kind of get the throwback to what video gaming used to be like.
yeah,
Sitting in a room with your buddies and just talking mad trash. So I really hope this year we get to see that from you. And obviously EA Creator Network, I think you'd be a deserving candidate of that for sure. And hopefully next year when NCAA drops again, I'm assuming NCAA is not going to just go away for 10 years after this year. I think it's going to come back. Hopefully, hopefully we get to see your name on one of those schedules, getting the early access, and be one of those guys who can kind of lead us through content and reveal everything to us. I think you'd be a very deserving candidate of it. But
I appreciate that.
Bobby, man, I appreciate you coming through, doing this interview, this podcast. I had a blast, kind of getting to know you, sitting down and having this conversation. And wishing you all the best on your upcoming subathon, man. I'll definitely be in there checking out the content and excited to see if you get speared by a future NFL player. I hope that happens. Not that I don't like you. I think it would be amazing to watch, and I think you'd be able to stand up to it pretty well.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, man.